crazy amount of browse pressure down here. Every single one of them, they just go right down the road, just nipping the tops of them off. Hi guys, welcome to this week's episode of Midwest Whitetail. It's at the end of June here in southern Iowa, and Rye and I are on a farm that has a close spot to my heart. If you've been following Midwest Whitetail for a number of years, especially the Heartland show, I spent a lot of time hunting this farm. I haven't spent as much time the last several years just because I have Area 52 now, you know, the Goat Hills plays into that a little bit. I've just kind of naturally worked my way away from it. I would tell you that the memories just stick with you. As we stand at this spot, I really think about the walnut tree right over my shoulder because there was that really cool hunt that I had several years ago. Thinking back at that season, I probably should have let the arrow fly that day. It was such a cool encounter, but in that moment, you know, it didn't happen. You know, it's just one of those things I absorbed, and you know, anytime you have the camera with you, you're able to have those memories, and it seems like every corner I come around on this farm specifically, there's a lot of memories associated with it. The reason why we're out on this farm today is I feel like it relates to today's show, you know, in the storyline, because when I think about my changes over time and how I've gone through my process of being a hunter, you know, I think about starting on permission and then inevitably owning my own ground. And I think about Nolan Redeker embodies that more than anybody when it comes down to it. The last few weeks we've talked about him on the show where he did a deep dive into his first land purchase. And on this week's episode, Nolan and I are going to go back and forth. Nolan's a close friend of mine, and he's someone that I feel like we're really having a good relationship as far as walking through my stages of land ownership and also his first stages of land ownership. So he's been asking me a lot of questions. I've been trying to get him as much information as I can. So we're gonna dive into that this week. We're gonna talk about is less more. And what I mean by that is, do we need to take a step back and maybe just see how the deer are utilizing the property? How are the wildlife using it? Do we need to interfere with that? What changes do we want to make in year one, but also take that information into year two and maybe adjust our plan going into those successional years. But first and foremost, we're going to do an update on the pond project because I've been down there quite a bit, been spending quite a bit of time putting some TLC into that project down there. Did my first mowing of the clover, and I've been really happy with how things are looking. One of the things I've been keeping a really close eye on this summer is we've had periods of substantial rain, and even if you've been following some of the severe weather we've had in the Midwest, it just seems like every single storm has a severe category to it to some degree. And the pond filled up quicker than I anticipated, and at times it's actually gone over the pond dam. You know, I've never owned my own pond. You know, I'm working my way through, you know, understanding of what all the nuances that go along with that. You know, at the time when we made the decision to build the pond, I elected not to put an overflow pipe in. I may be regretting that a little bit right now, like when it comes down to it. And ultimately, when I made that decision, I knew it was something that it was going to benefit it. You know, it would work, you know, if I needed it to. But ultimately, I was just trying to save on cost. You know, any of these land management projects that we do, we're always, you know, looking at dollar signs when it comes down to it. And the pipe, when you put an overflow pipe in, there's a cost associated with that. So I elected not to at the beginning. You know, we're going to look at putting one in now. So we did like a natural overflow area, and unfortunately there's been a low spot in the dam a little bit. So I've been having to manicure that, keep a close eye on it. But I mean, I'm really happy with how things are coming together. The clovers really snapped back really quickly in some of those areas that were undisturbed, and then the new seeded areas look great. If you remember right, I did that nurse crop of oats that I accompanied with, hoping to get a quick influx of greenery. And now that they've seeded out, now that I've mowed them, they actually won't come back. If you get them before they go to seed, they'll actually continue to grow. They won't come back at this point in time. It looked really nice, greened up really nice, and gave an additional food source during a different period of time during the year. So that was great. In the coming weeks, I still have some projects I'm wanting to finish up down at the pond. I'm going to continue to monitor those areas where I'm having some erosion. I'm working through that process too. The quicker I can get it to green up, the better for me. And then also, hopefully we can hit one of these cold fronts in the coming weeks and I can get out there and hang a permanent set in that oak tree. That way I'm ready to hop in that tree, because if you remember right, 2023 season, the first time I went in there, I had that great encounter with Pretzel. So maybe history will repeat itself. I still haven't had any actual trail cam photos of that deer, so I'm not sure if he's alive or not, but the trail cams are definitely showing that the deer are using the pond, and just all wildlife in general are using the pond. Just the other day, I had several bucks that were drinking out of it midday. One of the things that I referred to earlier on is that we were going to talk about, you know, less is more when it comes to making changes. I would tell you, as a land steward myself, I'm gonna lean towards benefiting wildlife ahead of hunting wildlife. And what I mean by that is that I feel like I'm at the early stages of figuring out, is this pond set gonna be one of those locations where deer continue to skirt me on the far side of the pond and they're out of bow range? And to be honest with you, I'm okay with that, like when it goes down to it, because I'm okay with the deer winning 99% of the time. It's just part of the process of me going in there and enjoying every step of what goes along with not only the land management, but also hunting of these deer. So now that I've made a change, a pretty abrupt change to that section of the farm, one of the things I'm trying to do right now is gain as much information as I can going into season. So right now I have 2 cuttybacks that are running on both sides of the dam right now, getting information. And I feel like I could actually add a third on the actual other side of the pond too, to maybe get that additional piece of the pie that I'm not getting right now. Because even if they do start to skirt the other side of the pond or walk the east side of that pond, north and south movement, I could potentially put a scrape tree in the middle of the plot and set it up in a location where, you know, it's going to be something that I'm going to have them going to or from, and set them up in a location that's going to give me time, hopefully, to get an ethical bow shot. And I have no doubt that that'll be a location not only to run a cuttyback, but also to have some really good encounters with potentially a target buck. So as we sit here and talk about a substantial change that I made to Area 52, I think back to year 1, and I'm going to talk about just my general views and how I feel about making those substantial changes going into the first year, maybe the first 2 years of land ownership, or maybe it's just permission, you know, having those substantial impacts where I personally am going to take a less is more approach. That's something I'm always going to gravitate towards, because I often think about, I'm going to spend a lot of time in the outdoors, I'm going to spend a lot of time in the tree, so I know that I have time on my side when it comes down to it. So the things I'm going to do right away when it comes to change is that inevitably there's going to be those really great spots where maybe it's a natural pinch point that sets up to have a small food plot on it. Maybe it's a location that if I make just a little bit of a tweak to it, it could be just a little bit better, whether that's mowing a trail system to actually go by a specific location. That's the stuff that I'm going to gravitate towards on year 1. When I think about year 1 on Area 52, I just try to take in as much information as I could and try to limit my in and out on the property. That to me is the biggest impact that you're going to figure out over time, is that how can you access the property and do the least amount of damage going in and out from the farm. This is where my CuddyLink system, especially in those trail cam photos, really played a role in how I was going to develop Area 52 and develop as a landowner over time, because I did so many observation sits in that first year. There was a stand location I called the High Hide, and it was a stand that I wasn't always in the game, but I could see so much of the farm. So I'm taking in that information that first year and I'm applying it the second year, or maybe it's a third year, because I was getting information about those trail systems that I needed to have in place, and I was making a priority list of what I thought was the most important for enhancing bedding, incorporating fire, and figuring out ways that I could put food in locations that were easily accessible, where I was limiting my access to the farm. Through the years of land ownership down in Area 52, I've definitely taken on my share of larger projects that was using all that information that I just talked about going into those first year or two. The conversion to row crop, you know, so essentially we had a lot of cool season grasses. My goal is to get some of those acres into CRP. We have to do row crop. That was a big process to get that to the point where it was back into rotation. We did do a substantial timber harvest where I actually went through the process. I did all the marking myself, did a select cut. That was something that was a huge undertaking for me, for not only time, but also investment financially, and then what I could receive for those returns. A really important management goal of mine, and a huge undertaking when you have 60 plus acres of timber and you're managing that to enhance your bedding, enhance your browse, and run fire through all those. That's such a huge undertaking year after year. It's not just a one and done type thing where year after year I'm having to continue to apply that so we can get that early successional growth. And those have been some of my big projects, with the pond being right at the top of that, you know, the most recent one that I've undertaken. Something that's ever present on my mind when I'm weighing my options for evaluating these projects is I'm constantly thinking about, are they going to be positive towards wildlife? Are they going to be detrimental towards wildlife? Because we're one of very few creatures that have the ability to completely manipulate our habitat and change that. And sometimes that can have a negative effect on wildlife too, where as a landowner, land steward, one of the things that I always gravitate towards is wildlife first, and then my hunting, you know, in my land ownership secondary, and all those options. So that's something that's really important to me, and I constantly weigh that when I'm making these decisions and prioritizing these projects. So as we wrap this up, if I can just kind of wrap it up into some general points where I really feel like taking a step back that first year and gaining as much information and taking a little bit of a slower approach when, although a lot of times you want to dive in, you have all these ideas where it feels like you're drinking out of a fire hose, where you have all these great changes that you want to make. I think it's really important to bite off what you can chew, and especially that first and that second year, because really when I think back on Area 52, Ryan and I were sitting here talking about it, there's been that one big project or maybe two, you know, each year that I've really undertaken. And I think that that's important because that's what I could sustain at that time. And also I was changing and adapting as things were going, because although I didn't talk about the alfalfa seeding, that was something that I found out over time that I wanted to add green food source, where right away that wasn't a priority. But as I continued to go down the land ownership process, I identified, hey, there's not a lot of green food source down here. I want to implement that into Area 52. So less is more, bite off what you can chew, and then take that information and apply it as it goes. If you have a plan, don't be afraid to deviate from the plan. That's so important through that process. Just a few weeks ago, Nolan introduced that new property that he purchased down there in Kansas. I know he's been really busy down there incorporating that next stages of what that's going to look like coming into the 2024 season. So we're going to kick it over to him now, and he's going to give us an update where he's at down there on the farm.
Well, as you can see back here behind me, got a big project going today on my 40. Clearing out the new food plot, what I'm going to call the main plot right here in the center of my 40 acres. And so far it's gone well. I'm lucky to have my grandpa right down the road with got the equipment to do it. I'm really excited about this. It's shaping up well already. We're probably a fourth of the way into the project, but already it looks awesome. We got the part where I really want the deer to walk in front of the stand, what I'm going to call the bottom of a U, done. We're going to keep whittling away at this brush. He's working on the backhoe. I'm dragging some brush and trying to get it cleared out, but I'm excited to see what this looks like once it's all clear. Well guys, welcome to the show this week. I've been really getting after it since you guys saw me last time. I was on the show, I talked about my new farm, how excited I am for it, and some future plans that I have. I was lucky enough to have my grandpa in here. He carved out my new food plots for me. The area I'm standing in right now is going to be the main food plot, and then he also added one out on the outside corner that I'm really excited about. But these I think are really going to enhance my property. I've had a lot of really good conversations with a lot of guys, but Zach, as you guys know, he has a lot of knowledge, and he's helped me out quite a bit over the last couple months as I've started to prepare my plans for this place. One thing we talked about is, you know, not really trying to pressure the farm a whole lot the first year, and I was a little worried about putting in these plots, pushing the deer out this summer. But one thing I found is the bucks really are not here this summer much at all, so I don't think I'm really pushing anything out. Some other things I've talked about with Zach is some timber stand improvement. It's something I do not know a ton about. My first spring this year, I really thought about going in and starting to do that kind of stuff, but I really want to get educated on it first and kind of get it figured out. And Zach's been helping me out with that, deciding what trees to take out, what trees are beneficial, what trees to leave, all those types of things. And I think that's going to be something that I look forward to on year 2, or probably after the hunting season this winter. I've also kind of mentioned getting pictures. I got the Cuddy Link put out here last week, and it's been really cool. I've never had a Cuddy Link before. I've got my home camera for this Cuddy Link system centralized right here in this main food plot. Kind of my design for this plot was to have attach the existing plot and kind of make it into a U shape. Really, my plan plan for a stand location is right by this U. I hope the deer have to come up and go around to get to either side of the plot. Based on the pictures, that's been really successful already. I get a ton of pictures of does using this little interior lane between the two plots a lot already. And basically all the other cameras, I've just tried to branch out as far as I can get them away from the home cameras, on the fringes, on the corners, basically try to get into places where I can see the deer coming in and out of the property. Got them on some mineral sites as well. I added out some axe. So I was able to get in here with my grandpa and push out these new food plots, and they look really good. Some things I kind of talked about with Zach is where to add them, how much to add. One thing he always hit on is it's going to add a lot of value to my property just to have more food on it. It's 40 acres of straight cover, and food is one thing it really kind of lacks. So the area I'm standing in now previously was just kind of open. I feel like it was very minimal as far as the disturbance I had in this area. Just kind of took out the trees in the middle of the open area and didn't really push back too much. Just kind of worked with what I had already here, and that actually added me almost, I think it's going to be about 0.6 or 0.7 acres. So I'm going to map that out today. I really think that the areas I added onto, they're being used by the deer, yes, but I don't think they were areas that were to their fullest potential. I think having food in these two spots is going to be really beneficial. There's obviously, from what I've seen on the cameras, a ton of resident does, so I think the more food I can have on here, the better. Between these two and the existing clover plot, I think I'm going to be able to have somewhere between 2 and 3 acres, where before it was almost just about 1 acre of food total. So after adding these, I think that'll really help with the browse pressure throughout the fall, with there being so many resident does, and hopefully that holds those does here and attracts the bucks in and gives the bucks a reason to stay in here. One thing after we put those plots in, I do have kind of some remaining little brush and thickets that we weren't able to get out with the backhoe. So I came in today, I'm going to get that stuff sprayed. I am going to do a soil test today as well. I'm going to collect some soil samples and get the soil tested. That way I know what all I need to add to get these ready for hopefully some rut greens here this fall is what I plan to plant in both of these food plot locations. That should offer a lot of food and hopefully be able to withstand the browse in here. As I can tell, there's a lot of does, and I think the rut greens are something that I'll be able to keep food for most of the fall. So that's something I'm looking forward to. But yeah, going to get these sprayed and get everything finished up here today. Well, it was a quick trip to the farm this morning, but I feel like I got a lot done. Got those plots mapped out, the soil test, and got all that brush sprayed on the U plot. But looking forward, I plan to do all that work on the food plots, really get them ready for fall, but also hang my stands. This is an area I'm really excited about right here behind me. One thing I'm going to do right before I go today is I hung this vine scrape the other day, but I didn't have any scent with me. Last year I had a ton of good luck with the Smokies preorbital gland, and I filmed some awesome bucks hitting vine scrapes last year using this, and I had some really awesome trail camera pictures. Great way to get inventory with the vine scrapes. I'm gonna try a new scent this year. It's just the Scrape Fix. It's a synthetic, just kind of a powder. You puff it onto the vine or the branch or whatever you're using to make your mock scrape. I'm excited to use this one this summer, see how it does, and maybe kind of use both interchangeably throughout this fall. But really looking forward to these projects coming this summer. I do have a couple of cameras out on some other properties. Haven't pulled cards yet, but I've been going out for some rides and have seen some good bucks. So hopefully you guys are gearing up for the season, making some changes to your properties and looking for bucks as we progress throughout the summer. And thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.
What brought us up here was an invite. Don Palmer is a local up here that was good friends with my youngest brother, and he invited us to come up here and hunt. And we fell in love with the like my one uncle that I did a lot of quail hunting with over the years. And the first time he came up here, he saw the rolling hills and what was here. He says, He said, this is a hunting paradise.
Land is a lot of things, a goal for most, an investment for many, but this land here in Scotland and Clark counties of northern Missouri is a hunter's paradise. Spanning across 670 plus or minus acres and split into 4 parcels, you'll be hard-pressed to find another turnkey hunting opportunity with a legacy like this. Its diverse habitat of dense woodlands and rolling agriculture is the epitome of what northern Missouri has to offer. It benefits from over 20 years of quality land management practices that have produced some of the best turkey hunting you can find, and a long list of Boone and Crockett caliber whitetail. Welcome to Camp Arbella. You won't have to sacrifice form or function here, as the camp has everything you need. The full amenity living areas have room to accommodate up to 17 guests. With its 8-bed and 4-bath layout, this has that modern touch while still reminding us of those childhood deer camps we all miss. For your off-season work and equipment storage, the large pull-through shed is the perfect size to fit multiple trucks and trailers. Equipped with all the tools you'll need, wrapping your tag around a booner won't be a problem, but the work isn't over. Luckily, you'll have a dedicated game processing facility most professional meat lockers would envy. Without question, the crown jewel of Camp Arbella is parcel number 1. Spanning 488 acres, this parcel is a blend of mature timber and fertile ag ground, and is, without a doubt, the premier Missouri hunting property on the market right now. With over 145 acres enrolled in CRP until the year 2030, and additional row crop acreage, this property provides income to fund future development projects and diversifies the rolling landscape. As they say, location is everything, and this property has it in spades. The Iowa-Missouri state border makes up the northern property line, while a large chunk of Iowa's Fox River Wildlife Management Area provides sanctuary just to the north for all types of wildlife. The 59-acre Parcel 2 is a sanctuary of mature hardwood timber just 3 miles from the Iowa line. Its dense cover, water sources, and rolling topography provide an ideal habitat for deer and turkey hunting. And not to fear, these 59 acres hunt substantially larger, as its primary access from the south and east provides seclusion and nearly wind-proof access to multiple proven tree stand sites. If you were looking to pop into the stand just minutes away from camp, the 122 acres of Parcel 3 is just what you're looking for. With gravel trails nicer than some roads, 15 acres of open ground tailored for food plots, and incredible timber, this property's appeal to both game and sportsmen alike is unmatched.
After I kind of hung out with you guys and started playing cards with you a little bit, you know, I knew you was looking for a property, and just one thing led to another. You started out little, and you know, you started acquiring the other pieces little by little, and we scratched in some little food plots, and you started working on little crossings, and you know, it just got bigger every year. And as a guy hones and prunes and cleans, all of a sudden you turned every one of them into something you're really proud of. Just looking at the old picture boards over there in the trailer of all the pictures that I was involved with, too, it works on a guy a little bit. And every farm's got the big history. Every farm's had big bucks killed on it.
Lately, some of the guys have quit hunting as much and stuff, and we love the camp life and the camaraderie and all that type of thing too. So it's kind of hard to walk away from all this. I want to tell you, I hope that they get the enjoyment out of it, and it has the success that I, my brother, our sons, and our friends have had.
Camp Arbella has left a decades-long legacy here in northern Missouri, a legacy that is truly one of a kind. Now it's your turn to write the next chapter. To set up an in-depth showing or for more information, contact Dave Smith with United Country Land Pros LLC at 660-216-3405.